Cassie here. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to talk all about Cassie's journey of healing after a toxic relationship. She's one of my amazing clients. She just came out of my 12-week program. And so we're going to go really deep into her story, what her journey was like, what it was like before working with me, and how she's doing now, because she's doing amazingly well now. She's got some really exciting stuff going on in her life. So, okay. Hi, Lisa. I see you. Okay, beautiful. So we are good to go. Hi, Elaine. Okay. So before we go into talking to Cassie, in case any of you are new here, my name is Lindsay, and I help women who are ready to go on a healing journey of self-love that leads to the love of their life, a healthy relationship. So Cassie was one of the women who I have worked with who has done amazingly well, and I'm so happy to have her here. Hi, Cassie, welcome.
Hi. Aw, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Well, so Cassie is also down to answer any of your questions that you might have, like for any of you watching, if you're curious about Cassie, her journey. She said she's totally cool with answering questions. So pop those questions up, and I'm going to be keeping track of the comments here. If you guys have any questions that you want answered, or if you want to ask me some questions too, that's what these lives are for. So let's get started here talking to Cassie. So Cassie, really, what was going on in your life before you started working with me?
Well, right before I started working with you, I was just grieving an abusive relationship that I had been in for, that had ended rather in April of 2020. And I also went through a divorce that was an unhealthy marriage before I got into that abusive relationship. So I had just kind of had like two really bad relationships in a row.
Yeah, it's similar to my story. Like the double breakups, oh my gosh, they're so difficult to recover from. Yeah, I had a similar experience too. So yeah, so what at the end of the day, like what really made you decide to work with me? Like, were you not feeling like you were making much progress in your healing, or like what was really going on?
Oh my gosh. Well, I had tried to do so many different things. I had been in and out of therapy. I'd read multiple books about like unhealthy relationships and abusive relationships. And I had read articles and watched YouTube videos with like, narcissistic experts. And I was like, okay, I know that like that's what was going on in that relationship. But I remember just telling my friend, like, I am just scared that I'm never going to get over him. Like, I knew that he was not good for me. And I knew that deep down that that's not what I wanted, but I was still just like so heartbroken many months later. And I know that there's a grieving process and stuff, but I was just so uncomfortable. I would just get into these, I don't know, ruts, I guess, where like, it would just be like days where I would just cry, at least once a day, sometimes multiple times a day. And so we got connected on social media early this year, and I had a little bit of experience with energy healing, more on like the physical health side, kind of the muscle testing sort of thing. So I had done that and gotten results from it. And I was like, well, maybe there's something to that, if it can work with physical health and bring up answers, then maybe it can do that with the emotional health. So when we had our call, I just had a really good feeling about it. And I think I remember telling you, I just needed like kind of figure out how it's all going to come together. But I was just like, at the end of the day, so that's the long answer. And then the short answer, I just remember like thinking to myself, like, I am worth the investment to heal because I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I deserve more.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And you spoke to so many good points there. Like very often we know cognitively that, yeah, this relationship was terrible and we need to move on. But like emotionally, that's where we're struggling. Like our heart is still with this person. So yeah, like I hear that all the time. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I've created this program and do some of the things like energy healing, because it can be so powerful for breaking up that like glue that keeps you really stuck to this person. And I also love what you said, that I'm worth the investment in myself, because I can't even tell you, Cassie, like it took me a long time to be able to invest in myself for my healing. Like I started years ago, but I would just do little bits and I wouldn't invest a lot in myself because truly I didn't feel like I was worth it. Which is crazy because we're all worth it. And I'm so glad that you came to that realization too, because literally like almost every single thing that I have done has been helpful in my journey and it's been worth it. So it's what holds people back sometimes, yes. And maybe they're not even conscious of this, is just subconsciously thinking, I'm not worth it, or it's not going to work, or like I'm kind of stuck where I am and nothing is going to help. Can you relate to that too?
Yeah. 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 Cause it's like, well, what if it doesn't work? And then I'm still stuck. And, yeah, so I kind of had to talk myself through some of those things after our call. Cause I was like, I really feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. But what about this? What about that? And yeah, and then it's also that, like, I think that for me anyway, kind of that like subconscious fear of like, what would it look like not to feel like this anymore? Sometimes there's comfort in the discomfort.
Exactly. That's also what holds us back a lot of times, because even though like we can be terribly uncomfortable in a situation, it's still familiar.
Yeah.
It's our comfort zone. So it's like, yeah, what would happen if I actually changed this pattern? If I actually got what I wanted, if I actually started to feel better and I got this amazing partner, that can be really scary if you're not ready for it. So was that what it was like for you along the way?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I mean, I had kind of had that message ingrained into me over and over throughout my life, like that I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And so I really internalized that. So yeah, even just breaking through that to like, yes, I am good enough. And really just letting go of that. A lot of my identity was wrapped around being unworthy and not being good enough for a long time. And like, just sort of letting that go. Like you said, it's familiar. So even though it's really painful, it's still scary to like, well, then what,
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad that we're talking about this. And I saw like Elaine had a comment here. Yeah, that she could relate. Let me know if you can relate to this too. She said, yeah, change is scary. Yeah, and Elaine is saying also here, like, I used to feel worthless. I used to settle for abusive men. I used to think that I was not worth it. I also did not want to be single forever. Yeah, so like these are some of the things that come up when we start to think about change. And so yeah, the reason I'm glad that we're talking about this is because any change is going to involve fear, because it's coming out of our comfort zone, and our comfort zone is what we consider safe, like our very, very primitive brains. So yeah, when we take the step to break any pattern, even if like in our case it's relationships, but any significant pattern in your life, fear is going to come up. And so like part of my job here, like as a coach and as someone who's walked this path, is to tell people, yeah, the fear is going to come up and it's supposed to. And all you have to do is just move through it and your heart will open up, your world will change. And like my motto, I was talking about this to someone else the other day, is like feel the fear and do it anyway, because that's how you create real change in your life, there's always going to be fear, and it's normal and it's supposed to happen. So yeah. Did you feel like you experienced a lot of fear in your process, or was it not that bad for you?
I think I had done a lot of adjusting prior. Like I feel like I've been on a healing journey for a while. This was just like a really deep part of the process. So I don't think there was a lot of fear. I think there was a little bit at the beginning, but it was more just that like anticipation of it. You know, sometimes the anticipation is like worse. And then everything is fine and great once you actually do it. I think for me, it was just really like, I don't even know if I was conscious of it, to be honest, but just even with, you know, learning self-love and self-acceptance, there's still like so many deep layers from wounding over time. And if my subconscious was like holding on to that to keep me safe, then I think there was fear with letting that go. And I think that probably manifested in other ways, you know, like, okay, well, what if it doesn't work? You know, things like that. And it kind of comes up in things that aren't necessarily like, oh, I'm afraid to feel good enough, but it's like, you know, coming up with obstacles. What if it doesn't work? Like, how am I going to pay for it? You know, things like that just come up when the real root is like, is the subconscious fear around. I mean, yeah, like I said, that was part of my identity for so long.
Yes.
And so to let that go, like, meant that it's a beautiful thing, you know, finding my more true identity, but it's also just really unfamiliar and scary.
Totally. And yeah, thank you for, you know, sharing that vulnerable part. Yeah, I mean, I know for myself, when I think about the steps that I've taken to heal, and some of the things that I've done myself, literally every single time that I went to sign up for a program or like do a new healing technique, I experienced so much fear. Like terror would come up within me, and it's because of what you're talking about, because it was a part of my identity, all of these things that I was carrying around. And then my subconscious, it's like it knew that I was going to start letting go of some of this stuff, and it would freak out. And it would almost get to the point where I was like, is this, I mean, this is years ago, but I would be like, is this a sign that I shouldn't do this? I was like, I was really excited about it. Like, why am I feeling so scared? But it was because I was letting go of my identity. And that's always scary temporarily. But then when you come out on the other side, you're so much more free. You're so much more of your authentic self. You love yourself more. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let me just look at some of the comments here, because I think we got some questions coming in. So yeah, a lot of people can relate. Okay. Renee says, yep, she can relate. So Lisa is asking, I think she's asking both of us here, but how do you know when to stop trying to fix a relationship of 17 years? Wow. He's never cheated or lied, just COVID lockup. I see some narcissistic tendencies in him. Well, okay, so this is a good segue to actually talk about some of your experience too, Cassie, if you do feel like sharing about your ex. But really, you know, Lisa, I would never recommend that someone stay in a relationship with someone narcissistic unless very, very specific conditions are being met. Like they are acknowledging that their behavior is not okay, and they're taking very specific, intensive steps to shift that, which means like heavy duty therapy. If they're abusive, that means getting into a batterer or an abusive person's program. Like there has to be a lot of conditions that are being met. And even then I would say like be super cautious here. Like I wouldn't count on change. So yeah, 17 years, that's a long time. And I would be curious, Lisa, to hear like are you thinking of ending this relationship? What are some of your thoughts on that? Feel free to comment here. Cassie, do you have anything to add here? Because I know you write a lot about narcissism and some of your experiences. So would you have considered your ex narcissistic?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it took me a long time to really be comfortable using that term
Yeah.
to describe him. But yes, gosh, it's so confusing. And I was only in that relationship for about a year and a half, and I feel like it probably lasted at least a year longer than it should have. It was just so I understand. I think that the desire to want to fix something is really good and really noble. And I think a lot of us, want that. We
Yeah.
want it to be able to work. And I just got to the point when I ended that relationship for the last time, because I tried to walk away many times. I remember just laying on my bed and like kind of wrapping myself up in a hug. And I was just like, your needs are not going to be met in this relationship. And that's a really, really hard thing to face. And it's going to be a long road. But I was just like, I'm never going to be happy. And so I had to just make that hard decision to walk away. And then I still second guessed myself. It's not like you make that decision and then you're just done. And it's, smooth sailing after that. It was horrible. It was a really, really hard experience to walk away, but I feel like the beauty in the pain of walking away is that it's temporary.
Yes.
And if you stay and it doesn't change, then that pain is going to last and last.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So, I think let me see what Lisa was saying here. But yeah, I mean, you're speaking to it exactly. The pain in an abusive relationship, or I'm assuming it's abusive because you're with someone narcissistic. So that pain stays. There's no chance of it getting better because that person is very unlikely to change. But the pain of leaving will eventually fade. You will heal. It will get better, and then you have a chance to have an amazing life. And I'm a testament to that. So are you. Like, it is possible to leave these relationships because your needs are not going to be met. I mean, that's pretty much the realization that you come to eventually. But yeah, the pain is temporary. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let me see what else we have going on here. So, okay, yeah, Lisa is saying, I was, but starting to think of staying. Yeah, I mean, Lisa, it's not a decision that any of us can make for you, but yeah, I mean, what I can say is from the other side of this, it's much better after leaving, because then you have the chance to be in a loving relationship where you can get your needs met, where things are really great, and it's nothing like being in a narcissistic relationship. So yeah, so let me see what other comments I have here. So yeah, Lisa's saying I have CPTSD. That's why I'm so afraid. That's why I'm afraid, but we still love each other. And yeah, just a little verbal abuse. Okay. It's so hard when we do feel love for someone, because very often we do. I mean, it's of course mixed in with a trauma bond. It's mixed in with that intermediate reinforcement, which is very addictive. But very often there is real genuine love there. And what I can tell you is that love is not enough. It really isn't. In order to have a good relationship, yes, love has to be there, but you also have to have respect. You also have to have kindness. You also have to have someone who wants to meet your needs. And so, even though I'm saying that, I do know how hard it is to walk away from someone who you do have feelings for. I'm sure, Cassie, you can relate too.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I would say that going through the breakup with my abusive narcissistic ex was harder than going through a divorce. And I was with my ex-husband for 8 years. And that was an unhealthy marriage in other ways, an unhealthy relationship rather in other ways. But the trauma bond and the addiction made it, it was way harder for me.
Yes, it's honestly, I think, one of the hardest things to do because of the addictive nature of these relationships, because of the intermittent reinforcement. It really does feel like an addiction that you have to break, and it's brutal. It's brutal. Um, but yeah, so let me just check the comments here, and then we'll shift to some more positive things because you're doing so much better now, and I wanna talk about that too. Um, so let's see here. Yeah, Elaine is saying, I feel so blessed now. My boyfriend is my biggest cheerleader. He's so nurturing. Yay, he gave me so much comfort when I told him that my cat passed away suddenly. Yeah, so like Elaine is an example of someone who has broken the cycle and is now in an amazing relationship. And I'm so happy for you here. Lisa's saying thank you. Okay. Well, yeah, so really my next question for you, Cassie, is now that you have gone through the program, what are you most excited about now for your future?
Oh my gosh. I feel like just so much freer, like lighter in a way. And so I'm really, I think my, just a really quick aside that adds to answering the question.
Yeah.
I met with like a kind of a therapist lady a couple years ago, and she was like, if you could have one thing, what would it be? And I said, like through tears, I said, I would want to have just unconditional self-love.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm well on my way to that. Like no matter what, like I can stay true to myself and I can accept myself. And that is so exciting to me because I think I mean, that's something that I've always wanted. And I sought it out from other people, not really realizing that the journey was more mine to take. And then I think the other thing that I'm really excited about is just finding a healthy relationship and being with a good guy. I've dated good guys in the past, but it was when I was much younger, and then my marriage and the abusive relationship. Just those, they really take a toll, obviously, and so it's just super exciting. Now that I'm getting settled in my new place in a new state, like I'm like, okay, now I feel ready to find a good partner, and I feel like I have the tools and have the self-love to be able to discern and not end up in another toxic relationship, but to find a healthy and reciprocal partnership that I just really want, and I think I've wanted for a long time.
And that you deserve 100%.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, so what's it like now when you go on the dating apps versus like before, versus like maybe last year?
Oh, wow, it's way different. I feel like the guys that I've been talking to are more self-aware. A couple of the guys have even talked about their own like healing journeys and their own personal growth, which is awesome. The conversations are just deeper in general, not like in an oversharing way, but we just talk about, we talk about, our interests and like more surface level stuff too, but there's a component. Like I just remember when I was getting to know my ex-boyfriend who's abusive, looking back, like there was no depth to that conversation. There was an illusion of it, but it just, and I really love deep intellectual conversations. And I think a lot of people do. And there just wasn't much of that at all. And so it's just been really refreshing. Like, okay, yeah, there are guys out there who are deep and who are, willing to be introspective and accountable. So it's just been very different. And then I've also, some of this with your help, I've been able to, when guys do show up and they're pushy or rude or whatever, I'm able to just, either not respond or set a boundary, and usually then they don't respond. But
Yeah,
I'm kind of weeding them out a lot faster, I think.
I love it. And again, thank you for sharing this because it's what I talk about all the time. Like people say all the time, like there's no good guys out there on online dating. And it's
Yeah.
not true. There are. It's just when you're coming from this place where you're carrying around all this baggage and you don't love yourself and you don't believe you're good enough, you're actually drawn to those types of people, those types of guys, if you date men, who are going to reflect that back to you. It's not a law of attraction thing, as you can see, because you still get like the types that aren't right for you. But what's different now, or for you and for anyone who's going on this journey, is you're not drawn to those types anymore. And what I used to do is I would literally just like skip over those guys. Like I wouldn't swipe on the guys who probably would actually have been really great for me. And I kind of just went to the ones that wouldn't. And so when you do the healing, it literally looks different when you go on online dating. You don't swipe by those guys anymore. You give them a chance and you can see, yeah, it's a very different experience. So that's so cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It yeah, I see that message too with in a lot of places. Like there are no good people on dating apps, and it's like, oh, then what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Like how am I gonna, be able to meet many people and date, especially in a new city? But I have found that that's not the case. I feel like it's like meeting people anywhere. They're gonna be good and bad.
Yes.
And the past, if people would have been pushy or, um, too charming or shown red flags, I would have just gone with it. And
Hmm.
now I'm like, no, something's not right here. And then I'm able to just keep moving. And then I feel like I'm also, and this I feel like is maybe my heart opening more. Like I'm also willing to chat with and give guys chances, kind of like what you're saying, that I might not have in the past, um, which is really, really cool. And I'm glad that I have done that.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I did the same thing. Like my partner now is someone who I would have never saw myself with because I had this very like specific image of who I thought I would be with. And I think I've talked about this before, but yeah, he's not someone that I would have thought I would be with in the past, but he's amazing now and he's super cute and I love him. And like, but it took a certain amount of healing for myself to be able to open my heart up to that, to be able to take that in and not be freaked out by it or be like, oh no, he's not my type, he's too nice, or
Mhm.
whatever stuff I used to say before. So yeah, that I love that you're experiencing that too. Let me check the comments again. Um, and then I just have one more question for you. Let's see. Yeah, Elaine says she met her guy on a dating app. Yeah, totally possible. Um, Lisa's saying you're so strong. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, guys, again, if you have any questions for me, if you have any questions for Cassie, we're gonna wrap it up here in a few minutes, but please, yeah, put them in the comments. Um, okay, so yeah, so Cassie, what would you say to someone who maybe thinks that like coaching wouldn't work for them or energy healing wouldn't work for them? Yeah, like do you have anything that you would say to someone who said that?
Um, yeah, I think I would say that I wondered the same thing too. Um, and I think that being like skeptical is probably pretty normal,
Yes.
uh, especially when we're trying something new. But I have been to therapy off and on, for probably most of my life, and there's definitely value in it for sure. But um, I just feel like my healing was like leaps and bounds. Like it was accelerated. It was deeper. So not just faster, but also like more of the healing I um, experienced working with you and going through your program. I mean, gosh, I don't even know what a comparison would be in therapy because I've just never had that sort of experience in therapy. So I don't even know if there is one, like, oh, doing Lindsay's program is like a year or 2 years of therapy. I don't know, because I don't even think they're really comparable.
Yeah.
And I had done like EMDR, and not
Same.
on
Yeah.
it. But that's, kind of one of the main like trauma modalities. And it just didn't do a whole lot for me. And so I was just like, I just remember feeling like, gosh, am I ever going to be able to like, get through like, and reprogram some of this like anxious attachment and insecurity, and also, of course, my feelings around my ex, all of that. I had kind of gone through those questions over the past year and change since the breakup, like, am I gonna, I think fears that a lot of us probably have, like, am I gonna be alone forever, blah, blah, blah. But going through your program just really helped me release so many things. And in such a deep way, and also a faster way. And I just feel like so certain, like, it's not just saying like, oh, I'm worthy of true love and of a good partner, and I'm going to find one. It's not just like saying it. It's like, I really, really believe it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I love that you shared that, because this is exactly why I do what I do. Because it was the same for me. I had done a ton of therapy, and yeah, EMDR too. I had done like a year of EMDR, and I was like, this isn't really doing anything. And it's not to knock it. Like, it's tremendously helpful for some people. It was not helpful for me, and people are always recommending that as like the gold standard. I was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna be stuck forever. I guess, as usual, nothing's working for me. But yeah, and it wasn't until I found these alternative modalities that things did really start to shift for me. And I don't know why it, like, EMDR doesn't work as well for some people as it does for others. I have no idea. But I just think certain people take to different things better. And for me, like, the energy healing was one of the things that was so like life-changing for me. And I'm so glad that it has been for you too. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I looked forward to our calls every week. I was like, yay, I get to
Yeah.
talk to you tomorrow.
Me too. I mean, it's so fun. Like, it's so fun for me to do it as the practitioner. It's like my dream job here. So yeah, let me check on the questions, and then I want to talk about some of the work that you're doing. Okay, so yeah, I don't see any questions here. But yeah, so Cassie, you have an Instagram account where you are sharing about your journey in recovering from your breakup and everything that you've learned. Where can people find you?
Oh yeah, if you want to follow my Instagram, I share all about my experience, and then some of it is more specific to me, and then some of it is more just general. But it's butterfly _ spook, SPOOK _
Yeah, you guys, you totally have to follow Cassie, because her posts are amazing. And I'm gonna, like, when I'm going back, I'm gonna put in the description of the video the link to follow her, because yeah, she shares so beautifully just what she's going through, what it was like to be with her ex. So yeah, I highly recommend following her. But yeah, let me see. Last chance, you guys, to ask any questions of me and of Cassie here. But yeah, anything else that you want to share here, Cassie, before we go?
I'm really honored that you asked to interview me, and I just want you to know that working with you was like, I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes you just get like, I don't know, a gut feeling, or it's like, I just felt like, whether it was like God or the universe was just like, yeah, this is a good step for you. And I'm just really glad that I listened to that. And I just want to thank you. It's been such a gift working with you, and you've helped me so much. So I want everybody to work with you, because it's just been such a great experience. Like, I would just recommend you to anyone.
Oh, thank you. And And truly, it was such a pleasure to work with you. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, because you're such a success story. Like, you really dove into it and you gave it your all and you got really great results. And so, yeah, it's so fun for me to work with people like you. Yeah, you make my job just amazing. So thank you so much for coming on. And let me just check, see if we have any questions here. So yeah, so if you guys are interested in working with me, or you just want to hear more about my program, you can message me or comment, just comment here, Living Free, Finding Love. That's the name of my program, and I'll reach out to you. But yeah, Cassie, again, thank you so much for coming. And to everyone else who's watching, I will see you next week. Bye-bye.